I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
September 30th is Canada's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, honoring survivors of residential schools, their families and communities, and a reminder to acknowledge the truth of our history. In 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released a comprehensive report with 94 calls to action, a roadmap towards justice and healing. Learn more and take action.
You're watching Rogers TV. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
And welcome everyone. RTV Sports Rap back again the second straight week. We are back from the summer break. Spencer Byers alongside me, Michael Harris, JC Coots, and Manny Pava finally gets the satellite working down there in Windsor. Manny, you weren't here on week one. You're here now for week two. You're back off the IR. So I have to ask you, how was your summer, Mr. Pava?
The summer's been really good. We have razors down here in Windsor, by the way, Spencer. You know, I know Grey Bruce, it's that rugged look you want to fit in with the crowd in Grey County, but you might want to get cleaned up here, brother.
Hey, it's all right. It'll be fixed up for Saturday when the Attack make their home debut in their brand new rink with the new ice, the new boards, the new floor. We're excited for that. So I'll be ready to go, Manny, okay? Don't you worry. I'll be ready to go for my TV debut on the new Rogers TV OHL broadcast.
I don't know. I don't think you should change that quick. If you're on a TV show right now with this look, why wouldn't you continue it? In fact, Spencer, I don't think you should shave for the entire OHL season. Let's see how this looks in Game 68.
Until the Attack win another OHL championship, I think, Manny.
Oh, if I was waiting for another OHL championship, I think I might be going for some records here, looking like Duck Dynasty. But I don't think I'm chasing that record just yet. But maybe, Manny, maybe I'll take your advice. We'll see. But
great to be with you on the program, fellas.
Happy to have you back from, of course, the satellite in Windsor. Now, guys, we want to talk about the MLB because the season is almost over with the Jays clinching the first spot in the AL. The Tigers not that far behind them, just clinched their spot. So with Jays fans and a Tigers fan here, guys, I think we have to talk about them. So I'll start with you, JC. Obviously, you made your opinion well known before we left about how this team wasn't prepared to win, wasn't going to win, and that they were probably going to miss the playoffs. And well, at that point, I don't think you were that far off. All of a sudden, the Jays have maybe one of the hottest streak out of the All-Star break, and now they're the top seed in the AL right now. What changed?
I'm not sure what changed. I mean, there are sometimes in sports, it really is about the culture in the clubhouse, and if you can have the best players in the major leagues, and if you don't get along, if you've got turmoil behind the scenes, they won't win, even though they're the best. Yankees, I'm looking at you. I mean, it happens all the time. But it just seems like for whatever it is, even though they had a bit of a mismatch of teams, and we all know they've had their share of injuries this year, especially to the big guys that they brought in that they thought were going to be producers. Santander, I'm looking at you. They've still kind of overcome that. And they not only have they had the best record in baseball since the All-Star break, they've had the most comebacks in franchise history, comeback wins, which has been unbelievable. And it really goes to show you the character, I think, of some of the leadership on this team. Having a guy like George Springer around, who's a veteran player, who's won before, everybody gets in the mix. They're always having a good time. You're seeing a lot of camaraderie in the clubhouse, in the dugout when we get to look at that view, when they shower each other with ice after the games. I mean, they're a close group, and that counts for something. Their big question mark, though, has been their bullpen. Unfortunately, this season hasn't been that great. They've had a lot of surprises with their starting pitching, and Max Scherzer certainly being a big surprise, acquiring Shane Bieber, him coming in and regaining his form as an all-star. That's been huge because, as we know with Tommy Johns, you come back from that surgery, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to come back and play like you were ever again, let alone sometimes it takes 6 months to a year to regain form, and he seems to have found it quick. And then all of a sudden, too, you've got the rookie that's been called up, Trey Savage, who has been, I mean, how can you describe going through that many levels of baseball in a year? It's incredible. So they've got a lot of big stories, and will this be a repeat of the World Series teams of the past, 92 and 93, or will it be like the 85 team that just, who knows? But the one thing that is questionable is going to be the bullpen and the pitching as they head into this postseason.
Well, Michael, I want to go to you next. The Jays are the only team in the AL. I would like to correct myself. The Tigers are right now leading their division in the AL, but they are still hotly contesting it with the Cleveland Guardians, who are right now in the wild card spots. The Blue Jays are right now clinched a playoff spot, but they're only 2 games ahead in the division over the New York Yankees. So the playoffs are for sure. The division still up for grabs with 6 games to go. Obviously, the Jays have the upper hand, but anything can happen. And we've seen with the way the Mets have collapsed in the last month or so that, things can change pretty quickly in baseball. So, Michael, how do you see the last 6 games going as the Jays kind of get ready for a playoff run, an unexpected one if you go back to the All-Star break?
Yeah, I think the Jays, with 6 games left starting tonight, I think they're in good shape to win the division. I think they will. I think partly because they've been getting success, or their success has been resting on everybody, not just a couple of players, right? So it's been spread out throughout the lineup. Obviously, missing Bo Bichette is not good coming down the stretch here. Again, he's getting second and third opinions and hopefully back for the playoffs. JC mentioned that the bullpen has been the question mark. The starters have been pretty good, but we're running into a problem with the starters, right? Max Scherzer is not looking good coming down the stretch here. Might need to give him an extra day, but you can't because now Bassett's on the injured list, and you're going to have to pull Barrios back out of the bullpen possibly to start over the weekend. So starting pitching, which has been very consistent, being very good, and again, JC mentioned Shane Bieber coming in and giving them another arm. I think it will be a bit of a limp to the finish line, but they've been able to piece it together all year and find kind of a different hero every week in every series. So I think that will continue, and I do believe they're going to win the division, and I think they can make a run right to the World Series. Bo Bichette is a clutch performer, so when he comes back, I'm sure he'll be right on top of things again. And I like the consistency from Vladdy. Not a lot of power, but he's getting on base. He's being aggressive. He's hitting for a good average. That's the sort of thing that I think can carry them through the playoffs to the World Series. Well,
Manny, the Detroit Tigers right now lead the division in the AL. They are only 1 game ahead of the Cleveland Guardians, who are technically tied for the last wild card spot with the Houston Astros. So the Tigers are very much in a spot where they could clinch a division or be out of the playoffs, depending on how things fall. With 6 games left, how do you see the Tigers season falling as we get closer and closer to October?
It pains me to say this, fellas, but the Tigers are not going to make the playoffs. They're not even going to make the wild card. Their pitching staff is atrocious, and right now their hitters can't hit. And what we have seen is when the pitching is good, the hitters can't hit. When the hitters are good, the pitching is god awful. So the Detroit Tigers, who have won 3 games in 3 weeks, will miss the playoffs. They go head-to-head against the Cleveland Guardians and the Boston Red Sox down the stretch. Not an easy schedule. Tarek Skubal can't pitch every day. It's going to be a very, very long winter for Tigers fans. This will be the biggest collapse in Major League Baseball history. Now, as far as the Blue Jays is concerned, The Blue Jays are not going to win their division. They will make a wild card, but the Blue Jays will not win their division. Toronto has Boston and Tampa Bay down this stretch here. And Tampa Bay, except for the last series, I shall say, Tampa Bay has played the Blue Jays tough. The Yankees, who is the schedule maker? Get this, the Yankees play the White Sox and the Orioles. They might as well be playing Owen Sound District Collegiate's baseball team down this stretch here.
Which is pretty good this year.
They're probably better than the Orioles. Yeah. This is the easiest schedule ever. And that's why the Yankees will win the AL East.
Well, that would bring a smile to my face, Manny, because obviously the Yankees being a big, having the division for most of the year and then gifting it to the Jays after they go on their torrid run from the All-Star break that caught everyone by surprise. And then they obviously bought at the deadline, getting a guy like Shane Bieber from the Cleveland Guardians, who, as you mentioned, if the Detroit falls out, the Guardians will then clinch the division. So that would mean that even with them kind of selling / buying, doing what Cleveland does as a lower payroll baseball team where they kind of go, I'll say stalemate, they kind of stay even, and they continue into the playoffs and be a really good team behind a guy that's an MVP candidate every year in Jose Ramirez. But with that, guys, I do quickly want to go to, with the playoffs almost set in stone, the NL has one wild card spot up for grabs. The AL still has one spot up for grabs too in the wild card, really. So who do you guys see as maybe a team you really like going into the postseason, maybe a dark horse? Manny, who do you like going into the MLB postseason to maybe win it all before we see seedings and who they're going to play?
Yeah, like baseball more than any other sport, I think you have to get hot at the right time. Like the Cleveland Guardians, if we use them as an example. They are this year's Detroit Tigers. Remember, the Tigers were down and out last year when they made the playoffs? The Guardians are this year's Tigers. But when I look at the teams this year in the National League, all the teams that are in the playoffs right now are hovering around 500 baseball of late. In the American League, the Guardians are 9-1 in their last 10. Seattle's 9-1 in their last 10. The Yankees are 7-3 in their last 10. I think the National League is a gauntlet. So these teams may beat up on each other, and an American League team, like the Mariners, may just surprise a few.
I was going to mention the Mariners. They, as you mentioned, are very, very hot. Obviously, they're led by an MVP candidate in Cal Raleigh, who probably will win it because obviously breaking the switch hitting record for home runs, beating the Mariners record for home runs. I believe he's counting 58, most by a catcher ever, beating Salvador Perez's record as of 2021. So record-breaking season, just as Judge was when he hit 62. I have to expect that Cal Raleigh may pip Judge to the AL MVP. I'll go now to you, JC. Who do you like going into the MLB postseason before we see brackets and seeding?
I mean, can you ever count out the Dodgers? I mean, they're just a team that they won it last year. They've got the experience there. They would have been my team when the Blue Jays played the Dodgers earlier this year. I thought that's maybe is a potential World Series preview. It might not be for the Blue Jays, but I think for the Dodgers it still is. Otherwise, I mean, the Brewers. I mean, they've Bob Uecker died not too long ago. One of the funniest guys to ever live, and one of the best baseball play-by-play guys to ever live. And he's been honored this season by the team. And wouldn't it be the ultimate honor to win the World Series for the Brewers? And that's a team too that hasn't had success a lot. So for them to get there would be, I think a lot of people would be watching that series for sure. And the Cubs are also in too. They've obviously had to make some interesting decisions with player personnel the last couple of weeks, but again, they have the pedigree. They know what it takes to win, and they could be a team that could come out of the NL.
That they could be, and again, obviously the Dodgers, even as an 88-win team, and right now the lowest seeded division clincher, and I believe they're still fighting for the Padres for technically the division, even though both teams made the playoffs. You know, they're a team that is World Series or bust, even though they are not what we thought they would be going into the year with obviously all the talent they have, and Mookie Betts having statistically his worst season of almost his life. And you've heard him talk throughout the year about how I just don't know what it is. I just haven't been able to get it going. I have no answers. I remember seeing the quote, I have no answers to why I haven't been playing to my standard, which is MVP level in the NL and the AL previously with Boston. I'll go down to you, Michael. Which team do you like going into the MLB postseason with just a couple games to go?
Well, I think in the National League, I think you do have the LA Dodgers, and I like the Clayton Kershaw story. He's going to retire, and he is a champion. He's going to the Hall of Fame, all of that. So it would be interesting for him to be able to finish it off with a championship. And if it's not the Blue Jays coming out of the American League, I like the Seattle Mariners. Again, Manny mentioned them. Cal Raleigh, again, I like the storylines and I like the narrative, and what a season he's put up. And it's interesting how the records, like some of my favorite, I was a catcher growing up playing fastball. So I always like Pat Borders and different catchers, things like that, Ernie Witt before him and things. But catchers, I don't think kind of get enough love in a lot of cases. And Cal Raleigh is certainly changing that. And not only is he awesome at the plate, he's a great catcher. So, again, in the National League, you got that story of the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, the big market, all of that. Wouldn't it be something to see them up against, again, Toronto Blue Jays, which is a huge market, of course, or even the Seattle Mariners, one of the smallest markets that, doesn't get a ton of national, international coverage. So I think those would be good storylines going into a World Series.
Now, guys, I do want to mention that ABS, automated balls and strikes, will be brought into the MLB next season. So finally, it's gone through the minor leagues. It just got voted in. Next season, we will have the automated ball and strike system. Now, what does that mean? It means that umpires will still be behind the plate and still making calls. It just means that if a player or pitcher or catcher believes a pitch was a strike or was a ball and got called wrong, they can tap their helmet or cap and they can have it challenged to the automated system to check if it was a strike or a ball. And if they get the challenge correct, then the call changes, And obviously, if they're wrong, it stays the same. Now, in the minor leagues, it was about 52.5% correct in the minor leagues to balls and strikes if the player was right or wrong. And it hopefully will lead to less injections, because I just read in the report that over 60% of ejections in the major leagues were based on balls and strikes, which, as we all know, if you go to argue balls and strikes, you're getting tossed because you can't argue a judgment call with an umpire. Now, we have a way to argue with them. And honestly, I hope it shows to people that maybe think that umpiring is easy and reffing is easy and, kind of get on them. That is a really hard job. They're right a lot. Even when they're wrong a lot, they're right a lot more than they are wrong. So I'll start with you there, Michael. Yeah. Do you like or dislike the ABS system being brought into the majors next season?
On the surface, I don't like it. I'm going to be open-minded, and I'm going to wonder how quickly it happens. And I will admit that I have not looked at how quickly the challenge had. That's my problem with instant replay at all levels of any sport is the speed at which it is implemented. Right in tennis, a serve in or out, that happens pretty quick. If it's like that, I can handle it. But again, you made the point, Spencer. There was a stat that came out earlier this year. I think balls and strikes, it showed that home plate umpires in the major leagues are something like 96% correct on their calls. And I thought that blew me away. And I do like it on the screen when you see they've got the scripts like, holy cow, these umpires are really good. So yes, there's that one pitch late in a game that maybe is a mistake and things like that. So it has the opportunity to make things a little bit better, but I'm skeptical because I need it to happen quickly. We've done so much in baseball to speed up the game with the pitch clock, which I love, right? The batters have to be set by a certain time. I love the pace of the game right now, and I'm okay with it if it does not interrupt that speedy pace of play that now I've become accustomed to.
Roughly 94% of ball and strike calls were correct by umpires. So again, you're right in that ballpark, Michael. And for somebody who'd get less than 50%, and myself, I can say that's pretty darn good. Manny, I'll go to you next. Obviously, this has been a thing that we've known was coming because it was used in the minor leagues. They have been testing it as they're supposed to in the MILB. So, do you like or dislike the automated ball and strike system?
I love it. It's about time. Michael is one of those guys that yells at kids walking by that says, "Get off my lawn."
Get off my lawn.
He starts screaming at the clouds when they move in and block his son. Like, if tennis can show us if a ball is in or out in 4 seconds, this challenge in Major League Baseball will work. 100% of the time. And I did look up at the stat. I think the amount of time that a challenge takes is 4.2%. So, Michael, to your point about how long it takes, I think we can live, with 4.2 seconds. I think we can live with 4.2 seconds.
I will accept that, yes.
Challenge the call.
Well, and I will mention go ahead, Manny.
I don't believe all the numbers, though. Like 94%. I've watched a lot of baseball this year because the Tigers have been playing a lot of good ball, except for the last 6 weeks. There's no way that it's a 94% success rate for umpires. Maybe 75% of the umps are good and the 25% are horrible. But the majority of umps, maybe that brings that number up. But I have seen some atrocious calls this year, and I hope the robots will fix this.
Two teams will get 2 challenges per game. You will retain the challenge, just like you will if you challenge an out call at first. You will retain the challenge if it is successful. And they said you will most likely get more challenges if there's extra innings. So you go to a 10th or 11th inning, you will get an extra challenge if you've already used both of yours and they were unsuccessful. Now, I do wonder, Manny and guys, and I'll go to you next, JC, is will this allow umpires to maybe get a little bit more on the corners and not being so scared of getting the call wrong now because they can just challenge it. So, hey, if that ball's in the corner, strike 2. He challenges it. It's wrong. Well, guess what? It's a ball now. And hopefully umpires take this change and go, I can now have a lot more confidence in my strike and ball calls instead of being like, I don't know, 3-1, I'll call it a strike and not walk him versus now, that was a ball and let him challenge it. JC, what do you think about the ABS system?
I'm not sure that it really helps with umpire confidence. I mean, first of all, you literally have somebody calling you wrong, saying that you made a mistake. So, and if teams get it right and keep retaining their challenges, and it happens like more than 10 times in a game, it's not going to help the confidence of the umpire all that much. Plus, you also have to know in the back of your head that this is eventually going to replace me. So I'm not sure that they're going to love it all that much. But, I mean, it's part of change. This game has been around for over 150 years, and a lot of things about it have changed in order for it to survive. Speeding up the game was a big thing from a few years ago because nobody wanted to go to 4-hour baseball games, and that's not with extra innings. Just a few years ago, switching over to DH as a universal rule, and now all teams, National League, American League, play each other all the time now. I mean, baseball purists who have been fighting this for so long, because we could have had this technology in the game for a long time at this point, but they've never put it in because the purists always whine and complain and it'll ruin the game. Well, everything's been toyed with now. Every rule has been toyed with in this game. They're always moving forward. Maybe we're going to talk rule changes in the CFL. Again, it's another example of sports constantly. Every major sport has to adapt and move forward, not just to help with audience interest levels, but also with player safety, with just, keeping up with other sports. It's just it's the circle of life, Simba. It just has to move on.
That it does. I am interested to see, though, how it will affect teams and how teams will utilize it. And if maybe they will kind of say, that was a strike or a ball, but we're going to wait till the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, as you mentioned, Michael, to see if they can use them more in vital situations where the win probability really swings in either way. Now, I did want to talk about the NFL, but I think I am going to skip it because you mentioned it there, JC. The CFL is rolling out all kinds of new changes. And they're changes that I immediately texted a friend of mine who's from Quebec, played football, loves Canadian football, and was rather irate about the new changes. Now, let me try to get a couple of them out. There's a bunch of them going on next year and the year after. They're shrinking the field from 110 yards to 100 yards. They're shrinking the end zones. They're moving the goalposts back. That'll be 2027. The ball will stay the same. The length of the field will stay the same, or the width of the field will stay the same, but the length will change. I believe they'll still keep the extra player. That change will still the same. But obviously, a bunch of these rules, as you can tell, JC, are a lot like the NFL. They haven't added the extra down. The ball is still bigger, but the field's shrinking a little bit. The goalposts are moving back. Do you like or dislike the changes in the CFL, JC?
I like them. Well, I'll be honest. When the CFL yesterday said we have a major announcement at 1 o'clock, I was like, okay, you're bringing back American teams or you're folding? Like, what's happening here? Oh, some much-needed rule changes? Well, I guess it's about time. First of all, moving the benches to opposite sides of the field, that's a good thing to do. That's a smart thing. Thanks for finally catching up. I guess, listen, for those purists out there, they're keeping the Rouge. The rules are changing around the Rouge. It's not going to be a free point for a missed field goal. So, as the commissioner mentioned yesterday, what a terrible way to win the Grey Cup if it ever came down to that. But instead, it's going to still count. That will still be a uniquely Canadian thing. Who cares about the shortening of the field? It's still staying the same width, 65 yards. It's still a bigger field. At least now the end zones won't be different as they are in some stadiums. And the other thing is it's still 3-down football. Now, saying that, the commissioner yesterday also said never say never. They might go to 4 downs, but you know what? Maybe that's a necessary thing to happen, that the CFL needs to adapt a little bit more, because you have a high influx of American players that come and play in this league. Have you seen the stands this year? They're not looking full. I mean, this is a product that isn't exactly going up in terms of ratings or in terms of fan attendance. It's actually starting to decline a little bit. So you're probably going to have to do some things to change the game a little bit. The NFL seems to be in Canada drawing more eyes and ears now than ever before, and the CFL is declining. So unfortunately, yeah, you can be a purist and say, I want it to stay the same as it is now, but it might go away completely. So what would you rather have?
Very true. Now, the rules changing next year is it'll go from a 20-second manual play clock to a 35-second auto play clock, just like the NFL, even though I think theirs is 45 seconds. The benches will be on the opposite sides, as you mentioned there, JC. And then next year is when the field will shrink, lengthwise, not widthwise. The goalposts will be moved to the back of the end zone, which will be interesting to see how teams now use the field goals, because obviously, as you mentioned there, JC, that, when the posts are at the front of the end zone, kicks are a little bit different than when they're at the back of the end zone. You're adding an extra 10, 15 yards onto the ball from where you're sitting. So we'll see if teams utilize that. Michael, I'll go to you now. You like or dislike these changes for the CFL?
I'm indifferent, because I don't think it's going to change viewership. And I'm glad JC brought that up. Like, when you make rule changes, your attempt is to draw in new fans, and you hope to keep the ones you have. That's the risky thing, is that there is a diehard group of fans, CFL fans, that may be perturbed by this, but the hope is they stay and you may draw new fans. I don't see necessarily how this will have an effect on bringing in new fans, because, again, the NFL is so pervasive in our lives. And when you're, not everybody has time to sit down all Friday night to watch football and then all Sunday as well. So I fine, whatever. I think it is good that they're standardizing things. Again, you look at Alouettes play at McGill. The corners, the end zones are cut off right now because it has to fit within the 400-meter track. So, it's and you have some that are 18 yards. So standardizing the field is good. I kind of like the look of having the goalposts right at the front of the end zone, mostly just because that's what I'm used to. But it's not going to bother me if it becomes at the end of the end zone. So it's a lot of cosmetic. I don't know. I guess, like I said, I'm indifferent toward it. It's not going to change my viewership. I watch the CFL sometimes. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to make really that much of a difference.
About a minute left, Manny. What are your thoughts on the new CFL changes?
JC may be the first person that I've met who actually likes these rule changes. As Nathan O'Rourke said from the BC Lions, these changes are garbage. Absolute garbage. Because if you're going to make changes that make your game similar to the NFL, why are people going to watch your league? Because it's going to be an inferior product with less skill on the field, because we know the best players are in the NFL. Make it distinctly different than the National Football League, and you will have that audience that Michael and JC are talking about.
That you will. You'll have teams of the Eagles, you'll have fans of the Niners maybe watching, and maybe the NFL will be able to make some sort of agreement where they can exchange players. I'd be interested in that and seeing if the NFL would be interested in that, because I think we're all dying for an NFL where players aren't just forced to be on practice squads and they get a chance to play and show their stuff and maybe play themselves into jobs like you saw the XFL and previous leagues do, where guys got signed out of them because they're really good football players, just need a chance to play. But